Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us tonight on episode 27, season 4 of the Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. We're here live every Wednesday on Facebook and YouTube throughout the season. Evening, Richie. Another scratchy Warriors performance against a tough Tigers outfit, this time in front of a large Hamilton crowd. We also got a lot of one-sided matches as we get another week closer to the finals. First of all, how are you, and what did you think of the round?
I'm doing very well, thanks, Brad. I very much enjoyed the round. Yeah, like you say, there were a couple of pretty big results, and the finals race is heating up. But how are you, and how did you enjoy the match in Hamilton? How was the atmosphere?
It was good. I enjoyed it. I was talking with Paul just before we went on air about the handful of pitch invaders we had, and the Mexican wave that resulted in a lot of trash going all over the place. But it was good. I was happy with my seats I got. I got some cheapies behind the goalpost. Unfortunately, saw a little bit, a couple of Warriors tries, but a lot of Tigers ones in that second half. And yeah, as you can see, Paul is back with us this week after his rest last week. And before we move on, I want to apologize. I forgot to send Paul our picks last week. And if I did, we would have got our second multi. So I apologize. I cocked up the multi for everyone. But it is what it is. That's what happens when the boss takes a week off, you know. It is what it is.
We won in spirit.
We know that we got them right. But yeah, you watched at home. What do you think of it at home?
Probably a little too close for my liking. A few swear words thrown around, and a couple of periods where I stood up and was pacing around the lounge, but we got there in the end.
Yeah, as I told Paul, there was a few swear words and stuff in chat to you after the game when I was seething on my drive home. I've calmed down a bit and got a more optimistic look, so that we'll talk about that more when we get into the review. But yeah, as always, we're here live at 8 p.m. You can catch us at your convenience on iHeartRadio or Spotify whenever you like. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to cover everything you need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our top stories of the week, a review of round 24 and round 4 of the NRL and NRLW, and an update on our tips. We'll then answer some questions from you guys as well as questions we've got for each other. We'll then preview round 25 and make our picks before ending the night with a recap of the Super League. So remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show, and we may as well jump straight into it. And
let's do that.
I see we've got Hammer on board and Simon's there also. He said maybe Hamilton might be a permanent at home for the Tigers. They play a lot better than Campbelltown. Before we move into the stories, I just want to commend the crowd that actually welcomed the Tigers onto the pitch. It wasn't a chorus of boos like we expect when the Warriors fans are around, showing them respect for being the only team that brought a game here. So respectful crowd to the Tigers, and yeah, I thought they definitely put on a performance that they could be proud of. But yeah, stories. NRL and the RPA war, it appears to be over, Richie. They've agreed in principle to a new deal. No word on when the deal will be officially signed, but the player threats and boycotts are over. There was an interview with Peter V'landys last week, Richie, where he said he was going to jump in, and if he was in there, it would be sorted out in a couple of days. And everyone kind of laughed and said, you know, the ego of this guy. Then he jumped in a couple of days, it was done. So I don't know if it's the V'landys effect or if or what each side is relented on. But are you happy that it's over?
Most definitely. I think it's great that they finally got a chance to sit down, and I'm sure each side would have made certain concessions to the other to help, get it over the line. So I'm glad we're at this point and can finally stop hearing about it and talking about it. And everyone must be happy on both sides if they've reached this point. So that's good.
I'm just happy it means that the Dally M's will go ahead.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
That's what I'm happy about. And I saw Hammer asked about the pitch invaders, and Paul answered there were only 3, and the crowd booed them all heavily when they ran out on the field. So that was good to see as well. I think that kind of helped not encourage others to do it. So, yeah, great news to see there. And next bit, Volandis wasn't done with his news for the week. They officially announced the Las Vegas launch for 2024. Next year's season is going to kick off in Vegas with the Broncos, Seagulls, Roosters, and Rabbitohs being the teams making the trip over. How many boys from the Bronx are going to get in mischief over in Vegas? What do you reckon?
I know at least one that will enjoy that nightlife, and a few more. I'm sure people like Jordan Ricky strike me as a type that would get up to mischief with Mr. Reece Walsh as well. I'm sure they've got a little crew there that enjoy getting out and getting amongst it. But yeah, it'd be interesting, won't it, to see how that goes. Be pretty cool that if they get the Roosters and the Rabbitohs up against each other for a rivalry match. Be kind of a shame that wouldn't be in Sydney where it goes off, but it'd be a good sort of advertisement for the game over there.
Yeah, I'm still not sold on it myself.
Nah, me either.
Like, I know that they want to try to tap into that market, but this is a market that New Zealand takes the All Blacks to and hasn't had that much success. And if the All Blacks and the brand the All Blacks have, no disrespect to the NRL, but the brand the All Blacks have, if they can't get Americans through the door, I struggle to see how the Broncos, Seagulls, Roosters, and Rabbits are going to do it. But I hope it goes well for them. I'm very thankful they didn't decide to throw the Warriors in there for the first one and take a home game away from us, as they would do. Interesting, though, it does sound like the Broncos are going to have their game as a home game over there, which was surprising. But, yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm sure we'll probably talk about it in a couple of weeks when we've got less teams to talk about to see how it folds in, but I thought we'd better mention it. Jared Croker has announced his retirement at season's end. Not too surprising. He's been around a long time. He cracked that 300, which I think we were all hoping would happen. It's not really much more for him to do. And he said, like, his heart ahead is still in it, but the body's not following. So, yeah, tremendous career for Croker. What's your thoughts on him hanging up the headgear at the end of the year?
Hanging up the headgear, I like that. Yeah, I just echo your thoughts, Brad. He's had a very decorated career. Maybe not so much in terms of rep footy and winning titles, so not decorated in that sense, but in every other sense, he's become a 300 gamer. He's been a legend of the Green Machine, and yeah, he's just had a fantastic career, and wish him all the best post footy. I'm very glad he was able to get his body to hold up to get him over that 300 mark, because I think he was very deserving of that milestone.
Yeah, and Ham has put some stats in for us, Croker. He scored 135 tries, 18 of them against the Warriors, including 3 try doubles and 2 hat tricks. Yeah, there was a time when you were sitting on some money if you threw money on him to score a try against the Warriors. Thankfully, those days are over. But, yeah, I don't know what his plans are post his playing career, if he's going to move into coaching or a mentor role or something, or even completely step away from footy. I'm sure we'll hear about it in the postseason when he's let his emotions of giving up his game, but I'm sure we'll talk about it before the season's over anyway. Talking about stepping down, Matt Parrish, he stepped down as the Samoan coach, believing that it's the right time for someone else to take the opportunity and lead them. Immediately when it was announced, everyone knocked on Matty Johns' door again, since the Johns brothers were interested in being coaches. He's put the kibosh on it and said no. I don't even know if him and Joey are talking yet. I haven't kept up with those dramas, but there's been a few names thrown around for it. I am not really knowledgeable about it yet, but you, as the Samoan on the show, you got anyone you're interested in being the coach?
Yeah, probably Wayne Bennett or Craig Bellamy, someone like that.
Bennett's already said no.
Yeah, I know. No, it's pipe dreams. Yeah, I think Matt Parrish had a good run and took them to obviously the World Cup grand final. So that's pretty great success in terms of Samoa. A tier 2 nation making it that far. Yeah, I just hope the next person that gets the role takes the ball by the horns and builds off of that. I think we'll continue to see the island nations get some big names for a lot of these internationals. So it's a great opportunity for whoever takes it on.
You think that halves pairing of Jerome Luai and Luke Metcalf for the next Samoan game, I think it'll be great. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get some more news. Obviously, in a little bit, we're going to talk about the upcoming internationals now that they've been officially announced. But I'm sure we'll have in the next couple of weeks, maybe a month, we'll have an announcement on who the coach is. They'll probably want to get someone in before that starts. So next bit of news, Graham Ellerslie, he admitted that Gerard Sutton missed Liam Martin knock-on. The Panthers scored on the next play after that knock-on. But after admitting that, he did actually come out and get a bit defensive and called on coaches and officials to cease unfair and unwarranted criticism of the referees. We can go on about it all day, but we go fast forward to the Warriors game. I saw a lot of Tigers fans, and Adam Dewey or Duahi even hit out on social medias about he thought he's never seen such a one-sided referee go against the Tigers before. And I left that game thinking the opposite, thinking like there was some bad calls against the Warriors that shouldn't have happened. So to see both fan bases being angry at the ref for different things, it's not great. I know they're humans and they make mistakes in that, but the bunker makes the mistakes as well, and the bunker's there to stop those mistakes from happening. So yeah, I think there are sometimes unwarranted calls from coaches and stuff that are just being sooks. But they've also got the right, if they see something that they believe is wrong, to call it out. And then Ellerslie can do his slideshow to prove if it was right or wrong. But what's your take on the refereeing? Do you think it's got better or worse?
I don't think all of the criticism is unwarranted or unfair. I think the standard's been pretty poor, especially recently. Yeah, I mean, every man and his dog could see that knock on in that Panthers game. So what good is it admitting that? I mean, everyone saw it in plain view. Look at the Souths game against the Dragons, the try off the kick where half the team was offside, clearly.
I didn't mind that one, to be fair.
Yeah. It wouldn't have anything to do with the team that it went against, would it?
Potentially.
Yeah. But there is a number of calls every week. I get that they are human, that the on-field ref I can swallow. But the bunker's making a lot of these calls or non-calls as sometimes is, and I just don't see an excuse for people who supposedly have all these angles getting it wrong.
Yeah, I feel we'll never probably. I don't think we'll ever see a rapid improvement with Ellerslie in there, because he is more prone to defend his team, which he's allowed to do. It's the same as how a coach will defend their players. But a coach, if a player drops the ball too much, coach drops that player, right? So yeah, I still feel there's a handful are times where a ref has been stood down for a little bit this year, but probably not as much as needed. But there'll be the news story that continues for a lifetime. I think they'll always be bad, but we'll move on to some interesting news. Tavita Pangai Jr. He announced yesterday that he is going to retire at the end of this season to focus on becoming a professional boxer. What's your take on this, Richie? I kind of feel like his heart hasn't been in the league for a while. And yeah, it probably makes sense that he's going to cut away, gives the Bulldogs some much needed room in their cap.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you reckon?
Yeah, really interesting. I think you're right. He doesn't appear fully invested, and at least he got a New South Wales cap to his name before he calls it quits. But yeah, I don't think his form has been probably where he wants it to be for a while now, and probably sees this as an opportunity to jump out and try something new. I don't know how well he'd go in the field of boxing, but it's a pretty big decision for him too. It's a fairly big wage he's on there at the Dogs, so it's a bit of a risk to give it all up to fight at a level of boxing which, let's face it, he's not, he's not going to be making massive bucks like the big dogs.
No. I guess if he's obviously got people there that think he's got potential to reach a level in boxing where he can make a decent wage. So full credit to him. If that's his passion and that's what he wants to do, go for it. Be interesting to see. But yeah, we'll move on. I'm sure we'll get an announcement of his first fight probably next year sometime, I would imagine. I think he'll have to go into a full training regimen to get out of being a league body and into a boxing body. But we'll save that for our boxing show, April.
Well, yeah, I was going to just you say that, but he could be tempted to sort of cash in on his name and sort of get a bout in early, because before people forget who he is. That's the other problem, and let's hope he doesn't rush it. And he actually gets properly trained up for it, because you say it is. Sure, Sonny Bill Williams has done it, and a few others have done it, but look, it is a different sport.
Yeah,
I don't think his name's big enough to do it either, though. At the moment, like you had Sonny Bill and Paul Gallen. Paul Gallen, people wanted to see Paul Gallen get his head knocked off, so that's why people were interested, and he knew it, which is what he tapped into that. I think Pangai could probably play that card as well, because he isn't the most liked person around. But
people remember who he is for, like you say, for about 12 months, and then after that, it's going to be like, well, who's this? Did he used to play NRL, really? Because the world will have moved on. So he's got like 12 months before he's kind of obviously still got some relevance from a league point of view, I'd have thought. Yeah,
it's a tough sport. One bad boxing bout and it derails your whole career. So time will tell. I wish him nothing but the best. But well, next news. Peter V'landys wanted to keep going again and add some more stuff. And Simon said Sonny Bill Williams boxing fight's not real. I still can't get over Sonny Bill. When he does a cross, he does a pirouette afterwards. It's bad form. But yeah, that's for the boxing show. We'll move on. So Peter V'landys, he's sorted out the CBA. He sorted out Las Vegas. He now is focusing on an NRLW Magic Round in New Zealand. It's a nice idea. I don't know if it'll work until there's a Warriors team in the NRLW. Like, I like the idea, but I know there was some talks about them having it in Queenstown, which I don't think is the right place to have it myself. But I think it's an Auckland or Wellington thing in my eyes. But Yeah, I think it'll be hard. Like, I love the NRL, don't get me wrong, but I think for your sitting on the fence league supporters, I don't know if they'll be as interested to go to Magic Round if there's no Warriors team there. It's not, no disrespect to them, it's not the same as the men's Magic Round where you have all the, you know, giant names. Like, there's some big names in the NRLW, but not for everybody that watches. You know, we know like the Millie Boyles and like 80% of that Roosters roster, to be fair. But yeah, what do you reckon?
Yeah, for me, it's the profile of the NRLW. I'm not sure that it's big enough over this side of the Tasman just yet to gather a lot of public interest. So I just question whether ticket sales would be very good. Yeah, I'm like you say, a nice idea in theory, but I'm just not sure the numbers that they could pull.
Your thoughts, Paul?
Well, look, if you do something like Queenstown, which is going to have a tiny stadium, then and you do it basically for and you do it as part of a tourism thing and try and get people to fly over from Australia, then I can see it working along those sort of things, make it part of an adventure weekend. And it's all going to come down to the marketing. We have seen a number now of black ferns head over. So if you so if you play on and really use their names to try and promote it, then you have got a chance, because there are I can think of at least two off the top of my head of sort of World Cups, or at least if Olympians who I think have gone over. And so you've got people who can sort of stand there with an Olympic gold medal on TV and be part of a promotional thing. So I think you could really, I mean, as someone said, Queenstown doesn't really have a stadium. No, it's going to be so exactly. It's going to be a small. You don't need a big crowd to fill it. Whereas if you try and take it to Wellington and you put it in the Cape Tin, it'll be a failure.
It'll look awful.
It'll look awful. So you want to take it to somewhere like Queenstown. I think it's actually a better move because you can fill it with only 10,000 people.
The difference is I'd go to Wellington. I wouldn't go to Queenstown. Like Jacko said, Queenstown's too expensive. I took a financial hit going to Wellington for one night. But
it fits with what the NRL is trying to be. If you go into Vegas, you're going to these destinations that will pay you to go there because they want to have a reason for people to go there outside of the normal holiday season kind of thing. And they want whole events there to promote their location. So I think in some ways, Queenstown's the right kind of place to take it to. As far as not having a Warriors team, well, yes, it would be nice, but it might also be a way of raising awareness of the NRLW before actually releasing or before launching a team. So there's a bit more awareness around them when they do go live. Is the other way of looking at it. Yeah,
maybe. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get more news as it goes on. So we'll go on to our favorite news segment, the Ben Hunt saga, Richie. So more rumors have come out about Ben Hunt. It's apparently now he's fully committed to the Dragons after meeting with Shane Flanagan. So last week he wanted another immediate release. Now he wants to stay and fulfill his contract. So I'm sure next week we'll probably say he wants a release again. But what's your take on the Ben Hunt umming and ahhing?
I don't really have a good take on it, to be honest, Brad, until
it's actually official.
Until the picture's clearer. Like you say, 1 week it's one story, 1 week it's another. I think it'd be great if he stayed. I mean, he's got a contract there. If he were to leave, it would set them back a fair bit. He's their best player. But
here they come.
Yeah, you say that, but they've shown glimpses, especially recently.
That's with him, though. If he goes.
No, yeah, but you throw in a new coach in, a proven coach, Shane Flanagan, and I think pieces will start falling into place. They'll make I think they'll be able to attract some better signings again with a better structure in place. But yeah, I hope he stays.
It's a poor take from you. So anyone watching, if you want to become the next host of the standoff with me, send us your CVs because Richie's gone.
They're my second team now.
We'll go on to Joey Manu. So unlike the and ahhing from Ben Hunt, Joey Manu's management's come out and stated that he's not interested in hitting the open market, and he's hopeful to re-sign with the Roosters sooner rather than later. Mix, I don't see the Roosters wanting to let him go. So I expect they will find a deal. You know, they always seem to manage to find a way to fit these guys under the cap somehow. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what do you take? I'd love to see Joey Manu go to another team, preferably one in New Zealand. But he's been a one-club man for the Roosters, and I think it's actually good to see him showing loyalty there. Especially, I'm sure there's a lot of teams out there that would say, mate, come to us, you'll be fullback. Which we all know that's what he wants, but he's willing to sit under the grandpa that is Teddy and bide his time. But what do you reckon?
Yeah, from an outsider's point of view, looking in, I think you can tell he really likes it. He really loves that club. So he, you know, I think we will be hearing news of him re-signing with them in the future. But yeah, like you say, it would be nice to get him over these ways. But I think it'd be great if he signed on and stayed a one club man. It's a bit of a rarity in this day and age. So it's great to celebrate it when you see it. Like the same with Croker about to retire. Somebody super loyal to a club. It's good to see.
Yeah, and then before we get into the international news, the last bit of news, it broke today. As always with the Tigers, they can't keep a secret. Benji Marshall is going to step up and become the West Tigers head coach from next season with Tim Sheen stepping down. It's fairly recent, so we haven't got a lot of news, so we don't know if Tim Sheen is going to stay in the mentor capacity that he was meant to be doing, or if he's completely out of the circle. What's your take on it? I kind of feel like Benji's basically been head coach this year anyway, especially watching the Tigers game in Hamilton. It looked more like Benji was directing everything.
Yeah.
But what's your take?
I think it's good. I think Sheens was out of the game for a while. Maybe the game's moved on a wee bit. And yeah, I think Benji's got a good rugby league brain. He'll be good for the Tigers, as good as you can be for a club like that. You know, they've had a bit of a losing culture there for a while.
Yeah, and as Simon said, how long will Benji last as coach? It'll be very interesting. Yeah, I think if they've made this decision, they need to stick by him. They can't just, if the Tigers are rubbish the next 2 years, they can't just throw him out, because he is, not only is he a young coach, he's a guy that's never coached, so you can't go a guy with, barely any coaching experience. You can't just throw him a team for a year or two and expect them to, go from last place to being playoff contenders. And yeah, and like Paul mentioned, the Tigers did have a stretch where they won 3 out of 4 games this season. Yeah, the only 3 games they won this year, and it was Panthers, Dragons, and Cowboys in that stretch. So, and they've been very, very close a couple of times. So it's not like they're getting pantsed every week. So I think there is some good in there. We'll talk about it in the review. Unfortunately, one of the best aspects they got is going to be in a Panthers jersey next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to just play it as it lies and see what happens next year. But I wish Benji nothing but the best. And what's going to be one of the tougher things in his career. And yeah, so Paul's brought some more stats up for us. They've had 6 losses this season by 6 points or less. Then you throw in the win in the weekend, Paul, where they lost by 8. So yeah, tough time for the Tigers, but there's always got to be someone who's last, right?
Yeah.
So last bit of news before we get into signings and injuries, the Pacific Championships, we talked about it last week, but they've given us the itinerary now. So There'll be 2 match days in Australia, 2 in New Zealand, and 4 in Papua New Guinea. The men's competition is going to be split into 2 pools. So I'll just do a quick rundown, Richie. Week 1, which is October 14 and 15. We've got Australia and Samoan men playing in Townsville, Australia and New Zealand women playing in Townsville, Papua New Guinea and Cook Islands playing in Port Moresby, and that's the men, and Samoa, Fiji women playing in Port Moresby. Week 2, which is 21st and 22nd of October, we've got New Zealand, Samoa at Eden Park, New Zealand, Tonga women at Eden Park, Fiji and Cook Islands men in Port Moresby, and Papua New Guinea and Cook Islands women in Port Moresby. Week 3, which is the 28th and 29th of October, we've got Australia and New Zealand men in Melbourne, Australia and New Zealand women in Melbourne, Papua New Guinea and Fiji men in Port Moresby. Then week 4 is the finals. We got the final of the Pacific Cup tournament will be in Hamilton. Interesting place to have the final. And then the final of the men's Pacific Bowl tournament will be in Port Moresby. So I know I threw a lot of you there, but it's good to see they've got a plan. I know there was a lot of people commenting, where's Tonga? But as we know, Tonga are going to England.
UK, yeah.
So, I think it'll be good. Got a game at that horrible stadium in Auckland. Having the final in Hamilton's good. Usually the Australians like to keep the finals to themselves. But, I would have thought maybe a bigger stadium for the final, potentially.
Yeah, but I'm sure they'll fill it out. I'm just glad to see some international league brought to this side of the Tasman. I think it's great. I hope the crowd gets out to Eden Park for that Kiwi Samoa match. Should be a really great match. So hopefully the crowd gets out to see that. I'm sure you'll make an effort, Brad. But yeah, it's good, mate. It's exciting. We've been banging on about getting some more international league and getting some really good games. I hope the big stars are fit, able, and ready to be selected. And we'll be mid-October. We'll be fresh off a high of the Warriors taking out the grand final and get some international footy to digest. So I'll be there for it. I can't wait.
Sean will go from Clive Churchill medalist to winning the Pacific Championship. Yeah,
and the Golden Boot. Yeah, how good.
And Paul's brought up the picture that shows you all the games that I just rattled off. I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely be trying to go to Eden Park and then the final in Hamilton if I can get tickets. I think I saw an announcement from the Kiwis saying tickets for Eden Park were going to go for sale in a couple of weeks. So, if you're interested, definitely go and get them because I'm sure they'll sell out quick. Rue said it's great for Papua New Guinea. Yeah, fantastic to see Papua New Guinea get games over there.
Yeah.
And Jacko also said that it's good because we need more international games. Yeah, I just hope, like we talked about it last week, Richie, they've got all these ideas for the international game as long as they stick at it and we don't see it for a year or two and then it just drops off like it's done in the past. So fingers crossed for that. So we'll move on to signings. Not too many, but there was some big ones. So I'll get the little one out of the way first before we talk about the 3 big ones. Hull FC have announced the signing of Herman Esiesi on a 3-year deal from 2024. Good pickup for Hull FC.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll save the big one till the end. But Payne Haas, we talked about it. He didn't want to sign a contract with the Broncos last week. He was just testing us because they've announced his extension this week. So he's got another 3 years for a rumored $3.5 million.
I feel like that is a big one.
That is a big one. There's a bigger one though. But yeah, massive for the Broncos to keep him. So well done on Payne for getting that $1. And then the Titans. So the Titans, before their game kicked off last week, they announced that David Fafita and Big Tino have extended after all the will they, won't they with that get out of jail clause they had. Fafita has got a new 3-year deal until the end of 2026. It's not bad. Big Tino, he's got a contract until the end of 2033.
That's a long one.
A 10-year contract.
We'll nearly be 50, mate. Scary thought.
And the way it is, it's an interesting contract because 10 years, the landscape can change. What you get as a top player now in 10 years' time, we might be talking about guys getting $2 million a year, rah. But his contract's got a ratchet in it. So if things like the salary cap go, he basically gets 10% of the salary cap from the Tigers, effectively with this deal. So if the salary cap goes up, he gets a pay rise and so on and so forth. But I talked about Jason Tamalolo. Jason's still got till 2027 for his 10-year deal that he made. And I don't think the Cowboys are getting value for money anymore.
You feel like he's tapering off?
Yeah. Well, when you talk about the Cowboys, we barely talk about JT anymore.
He's not the key man he once was. They've got a pack full of people that they don't really need him as that number one guy anymore with guys like Cotter
But he's still getting the number one guy money. No.
I still think he adds quite a lot.
He does, but it's always a risk, these large contracts, I think. Tino is fantastic and well done for getting this type of deal, but say by 2027, so that's 4 years away, I think, with my quick maths. If he's hit his peak there and that's his best he's got, you're still stuck with him for a long time after that. Or vice versa. The Titans could end up being absolute garbage and he might be like, I don't want to be here. What's going on? And he's basically signed his career to a team that might fall off the cliff. It's a risk for both sides, I believe. But
yeah.
In saying that, if someone offered me a 10-year deal worth all that money, I wouldn't be saying no.
Of course not.
No, of course you
You
wouldn't.
got thoughts, Paul?
So he's 23. That takes him through to his 33. The Titans locking up 10% of their salary cap for the next 10 years. Oh my God!
On a front rower. Brad will think that's well worth it.
It's every front rower should be getting that type of money.
That seems like I guess the question then goes for him: is he in it for the money, or does he want to be winning? Does he want to be winning trophies? If he's in it for the money, fantastic signing for him. Well done.
It has to be for the money. No disrespect to him, but he was with the Storm, and then he left to go to the Titans. Titans aren't winning championships,
so
not anytime soon, in my opinion. So I think it was for the money, and he is a local boy-ish, I think, isn't he? Isn't he from that area, or was that just for feeder?
He's from Orange, New South Wales, Australia.
Yeah, so completely a local boy in the Gold Coast. It's just
wrong color, Brad. It's orange, not gold.
Yeah, I always get that map of Australia mixed up. But yeah, I'm hoping it's decent chunk of change. But yeah, they are better with him in the team.
Yes.
So yeah.
When he was 14, his family moved to Widgie, Queensland, wherever that Widgie is. So maybe he is a local boy.
Yeah. So yeah, local boy, not born there, but like grew up there type thing. And Simon said it's origin near the Queensland border. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Congrats on the massive deal. But yeah, we'll go into injuries now, guys, because I know we're going long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll just rattle them off because there's a few. Nothing too. There's a few majors, I guess I should say. Jackson Hastings suffered a low-grade syndesmosis injury on the same leg he injured last year. Knights are going to assess him day to day. I don't think he's been named this week, has he?
I think he's a possibility, wasn't he? But more than likely the following week.
Yeah, I'm just bringing it up. While I'm bringing that up, though, Wade Egan's recovering well from his throat injury. That saw him exit the match early. He's been named this week, and they say he's all good to go. So Hastings has still been named. So we'll see if he drops out closer to the day on Sunday. Being the last day of the round gives him more time to recover. Sean Johnson also had an issue with his quad, but is not expected to miss any game time. We saw he Didn't do the kicking duties. Wish I knew that before the game when I put my bet on him to score 14 or more points. Yeah, they reckon he's going to be fine. Jeremy Marshall-King from the Dolphins, he's re-injured his shoulder that he's done a few times this year, and he's out for the rest of the season now, Wayne Bennett said. Pretty sure he said that a few weeks ago too, and then Jeremy was playing, so we'll see. Mitchell Moses from the Eels suffered a suspected fractured eye socket and could miss up to 6 weeks. So they reckon he'll be back for finals if the Eels make it that far.
They won't.
Which, yeah, I don't know if they will. Then Sam Verrills from the Titans, he's gone in for surgery on his shoulder so he could be fit and healthy for 2024. They've kind of, they know they're not playing finals, so they may as well get him ready to go early. Not a bad idea. And then the HIAs, we got Connolly from the Dolphins. He's not playing this week. He's got his 11-day stand down. Kenny Bromwich also got failed HIA. Ben Travojevic and Brad Parker from Manly both got failed HIAs as well. So anything you want to add to the injuries?
I'm happy for Jackson Hastings. It was only something minor. Seeing that in the game, it was a bit concerning. It might be something serious. Right as we're heading towards finals, and he's been a big part of their surge. So, and when you take into account what happened to him last year, was it last year or the year before? His season was injured with I think it was the Paddy Carrigan hip drop, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, so I'm just glad he'll be all right, and possibly this week, definitely next, and hopefully Sean's quad is good.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So we'll move into Naughty Boy and Girl Corner. Jacob Preston from the Bulldogs, he had a grade 3 dangerous contact. He's got 2 matches. Ray Stone from the Dolphins had a grade 1 careless high tackle. He's out for 2 matches. And then NRL, Jordan Rapana looked like he was going to get some matches, but he got a fine for his tripping and sliding knees. But in the NRLW, Bronco Brianna Clark had a grade 2 careless high tackle and got a week. And her teammate Jasmine Fogafini got a grade 2 dangerous contact and also got a week. So not too many.
Yeah.
I'm thankful to see that the bumpers that we saw in the Tigers-Warriors game didn't get anything more than a fine.
That would have been silly if they got anything for that. It would be a bit silly, given that you see that most weeks. And
Tino did it 2 weeks in a row and was okay. I know he got suspended on the second one, didn't he?
I did, because he broke Happy's jaw, didn't he?
Yeah,
but you see that most weeks, and it's not even an issue.
You saw it more than that the 2 times in the Warriors game, to be fair. But happy that it didn't get any serious repercussions there. So that's all the news, and at least we did it under an hour, Paul. So we get to keep our pay this week.
Yeah, that's something.
So we'll move into the round, starting with the Panthers scraping home against Manly, 24-12.
Yeah, it was 4 tries to 2 here. For the Panthers, 2 tries to Stephen Crichton, 1 to Sunuia Taruva, and 1 to Brian To'o. 2 tries for Manly, 2 for Sipley, and Ruben Garrick.
Yeah, so Panthers just do what they do best here. As Paul said, Panthers won next. No,
Pretty
we give
much.
insights. We give insights on this. They absorbed Manly's attack, and they just sent their backs to work. Such a tough team to dissect. It'll take a massive effort from someone to stop them from getting the 3-peat. Your take on the Panthers?
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was their finest game of the year, but understandable given they were missing half of their spine. They still had more than enough class to deal with what Manly threw at them in the first half and find a way to overcome it. And
your take on Manly?
Yeah, I thought in the first half they did a great job to throw the cat amongst the pigeons in the first half. They were a bit unlucky not to lead at halftime due to a contentious call or 2 or non-call, the Liam Martin knock-on, which led to a try. Yep. Ultimately they got a bit tricky for their own good with kicking duels and funny plays like that on first tackle. So, that's probably not the way you're going to beat Penrith.
Yeah, they tried that unorthodox approach, trying to play more free flow football with early kicks. It looked like it could work at the start, but yeah, they just couldn't keep it up for the 80. That style was high risk, and it just didn't work. But I thought it was a valiant effort from them. I think they got a lot closer than we expected. Your player to stand out?
I put Stephen Crichton. Yeah, he strikes again with the intercepts. He's just that kind of bloke. Can, even when they're not playing well, he can come up with a couple of big plays and take a game away.
Yeah, I went with Taruva. He ran for 256 meters. He had one line break, but 7 tackle breaks. He's kind of like a little unsung guy in their back line, which, but yeah, I thought it was a great effort from him. So we'll move on to the Sharks on Friday night, beating the Titans 36-6.
Yeah, one-way traffic. 7 tries to 1. Ronaldo Mulatalo grabbed 2. Connor Tracy, Cam McInnes, Wade Graham, Toby Rudolph, and Jesse Ramian. They were the 7 tries for the Sharks. Only the 1 try for the Titans, Tino Fa'asul Malawi.
Yeah, Sharks look back to that rich attacking form that had me predicting them to go all the way this year before the season started. They're just so dangerous with the ball in hand. However, it was against another bottom 9 side, but they at least kept them to only 1 try, which I think was good for them. What's your take on the Sharkies?
I thought it was a good step forward for them again. They look like they've possibly steadied the ship leading into finals after that wobbly patch of form. After the Warriors game, the team shake-up that Craig Fitzgibbon's given them, he's brought in a couple of new faces and looks to have reinvigorated their form.
Yeah, and your take on the poor old Titans?
I felt like it was a little bit of a letdown game from them after showing a lot of grit and a lot of heart against the Warriors. They just didn't appear in the contest at all this game whatsoever.
Yeah, like Paul said, Titans on holiday now. Yeah, they were just never in the hunt, the Titans. I don't think they perform that bad. They just can't defend well, which has been an ongoing thing for years. And they just weren't allowed many chances with the ball in hand. I expect more of the same from them in 2024 if they don't sort out that defense in the off-season. Your player?
I put Ronaldo Mulatalo. Nice to see him back in try scoring form as well with a couple of meat pies there. So
he needs
nice
to get
to see.
A few more.
He does.
As my predicted leading try scorer, I need him to get back up there. I went with Cam McInnes.
Workhorse, eh? Workhorse.
Yeah, just a workhorse in the middle. Always head down, ball up, and doing all the dirty work. So massive credit to him.
Yep.
Final game on Friday. Broncos defeating the Eels 54-10.
Yeah, I think that's quite possibly the Eels done for the year. 9 tries to 2 here. Adam Reynolds, Billy Walters, Dean Mariner with 2, Herbie Farnworth, Ezra Mam. Did I say Billy Walters had 2? He had 2. Kurt Capewell and Reece Walsh with 9 tries for the Broncos. Only 2 for the Eels, Sean Russell, Dylan Brown.
Yeah, Broncos just far too dangerous here, man. They look like they're scoring at will. They play such an exciting style. Makes them very dangerous. They're just relentless too, which makes them even more of a threat. Does make me a bit more worried about facing them in the finals. As a Warriors fan, I think like when they're on like this, I don't see any team stopping them. Even the Panthers, if they get into this type of mood, I don't think the Panthers could stop them either. It's just if they can do this every week, or have they peaked too early again like we saw last year. But your take on the Bronx?
I sure hope they have. But yeah, it was just a walk in the park. They just had way too much in attack. Didn't give the Eels an inch with their defense either. They got strike power all over the park. Looking across their team, you can't really see any weaknesses to them. I think they're a really strong shot to lift the trophy this year. Hopefully not, but I wouldn't be shocked at all. Like I could see it happening.
Yeah, and the Eels.
Yeah, it was just a terrible performance from them. A team fighting for their season, and it just goes from bad to worse now with Mitch Moses picking up an injury that will end his and more than likely the Eels' season. I don't see them cracking that top 8 with him out. He's such a key man in their team.
Yeah, I just think they never had a chance in this match. The Broncos refused to let them play, and the further they got behind on the scoreboard, the less confident they looked, for obvious reasons. But yeah, they still statistically have a shot at making the 8. But this loss has knocked them down a peg. No Moses. It's going to be tough. They do have that bye in the final round, so they just need to win this week, basically. But yeah, I think their season's done. But I said the Knights season was done a couple of weeks ago, and look at them. Your player to stand out.
Honestly, this one was tough because pretty much the whole team played well. Everybody played well. But I'll take Walsh. Just he's dangerous every time he gets the ball. He creates something. His speed, his ball playing, the Harbour Bridge passes to Dean Mariner. There's always something happening around him. So he gives them that little bit extra.
Yeah, you went cliche there picking the superstar, so I'll go cliche and pick a tough nut forward. So I went with Kurt Capewell. Thought Capewell, he was just great for them again in the middle. I know they didn't have to do a lot of defending, but he's such a good link player as a forward. And thought he had a great game and got to score a try. So well done. Yep. First game on Saturday, Rabbits defeating the Dragons 26-14.
Yeah, and it was 4 tries to 3. Nice close battle for the Rabbitohs, 2 to Alex Johnston. No surprises there. Campbell Graham and Cody Walker. 3 tries for the Dragons. Mikaeli Ravalawa, Ben Hunt, and Tyrell Sloan.
Yeah, unconvincing performance from the Rabbits here. Too many errors, as I say every bloody week. 16 at the end of this game. Needed their stars to stand up, and they just didn't. Another team at risk of missing out on finals if they don't turn things around. And they need a massive improvement this week if they want to stop the informed Knights. Your take on the Rabbits?
You're not the kind of form that will scare many of the top 8 teams here. Good enough to get the result against the bottom 4 team, obviously, but they seem to be taking the ball for granted and not completing at a high enough rate to worry any of the big dogs. I still think they have the cattle should they manage to get things right, but that's a big if.
Yeah, and your take on the Dragons?
Again, I thought a pretty brave effort from them. I think they've been fighting pretty well recently, even if they haven't been picking up the wins. And again, I feel like they have every right to feel a bit hard done by with some decisions. I know there was one try, definitely, which I think I talked about a little earlier, was a really nice try, a cracking try, if not for half the team being offside in front of the kicker. But all in all, not their worst effort and probably deserved a better scoreline.
Yeah, and Paul just brought up one of the best stats I've ever seen. Dragons is 0-11 away from home. They've got a massive away from home game next week, but we'll talk about that later on in another episode. But yeah, I thought as much as I give them stick, I thought they showed a lot of heart again. Second week in a row. They've got absolutely nothing to play for, but they made a lot of errors and some poor defensive reads. They're just counting down the days to the end of the season, like a lot of teams are, but at least for their fans, they've avoided the spoon, and they're still putting some fight into their performance. So well done, Dragons, for not completely giving up. Your player that stood out, I think this is the first one this week we've agreed on.
Yeah, AJ Alex Johnston. Bit of a stinker of the game, so a lot of people I didn't feel were worthy of it, but yeah, I'll give it to the man who picked up a double, and yeah, he's very good at that.
Yeah, got another double and got another step closer to that record. So I had the same. There wasn't anyone that really stood out for me, so that's why I went with him too. Next game on Saturday, Warriors defeating the Tigers 30-22.
Yeah, a bit close for comfort here, but it was 5 tries to 4 in our favour. Luke Metcalf, Adam Pompey, Dallin Martinez, Lesniak, Tohu Harris, Adam Fanua-Blake were the Warriors' try scorers. 4 tries for the Tigers. Stafford Tour, Luke Brooks, Dane Laurie. Stafford Tour grabbed another one at the end.
Yeah, another scratchy game from the Warriors here. Started strong, but let the Tigers into the match. The early exit of Egan didn't help matters. And I did have, if you read my review, I had some issues with Luke Metcalf, which I feel like I'm on the wrong end of the stick because every other review I've read or listened to was throwing nothing but praise his way. But sitting there live behind the goalpost so you can get the full layout of the field, there was a poor Fijian winger almost in tears screaming for the ball, and that little Samoan half just wouldn't pass it to him. So I don't know if that's the Samoa-Fiji battle, but yeah, I thought if he could feed his outside men a bit more, I think the Warriors would have racked up some more points. As I said earlier, I left that game very upset and emotional about the poor performance I saw. Watched it a few more times when I got home so I could write my review and kind of got a bit more optimism back. My confidence has taken a knock though, and I think they're going to need a big bounce back this week.
For me, yeah, definitely a very frustrating watch when you stack it up against some of our better showings this year. But also 2 points is 2 points. It's good to still. I feel like losing Egan and not having Chance affected our performance on both sides of the ball, and we were definitely found wanting on defence a few too many times for my liking, and that hasn't been our standard this year. So hopefully we get that back out of our game.
Yeah, and your take on the Tigers?
I thought they did a really good job to push a top 4 side so hard, particularly away from home. Some great performances from individuals in their team, like Dane Laurie and Jareen Bull in particular. They really gave us problems.
Yeah, massive effort from the Tigers. They had the Warriors at 6s and 7s with some of their ruck play. Uppy is one of the best of that.
Yeah.
And their small men had a field day against some tiring Warriors middles. They gave it everything, which is all you can ask for as a Tigers fan, I guess. And yeah, as we mentioned already with Paul's info that he brought us, they've had so many narrow losses this year, so you know that they are still fighting. Hopefully, brighter times are just around the corner.
Yeah.
And your player?
I put Big Fanua-Blake. There you go, Brad. I picked a prop for you. Just another beast of a performance. He seems to do it every week this year, but I think he was nearly 280 meters for the game, had well over 20 runs. Yes, remarkable. I know he hobbled. Minutes. Yeah, it's ridiculous, mate. I know he hobbled off at the end of the game, so I hope nothing too serious there, and it's just a, normal sort of battle scars, and he heals up all right from that because he's very key for what we're doing.
Yeah, and Paul's mentioned Tigers with 341 is the lowest points for any of the team this season. Yep, but they're also one of only 5 teams to have beaten the Panthers this year, and that was the Panthers with Cleary playing as well. But yeah, I, for the first time on our show, have picked a team, player to stand out from the opposition. I went with Dane Laurie. I thought he was fantastic in this game. He showed how dangerous he is as a 6. So when he takes over, when Jerome Luai leaves the Panthers, I think that's going to be a dangerous halves combination at Penrith. And it's crazy that the Tigers even let him go.
Oh, yeah.
I think even last year, I think he was one of their best players. I know he was playing fullback and they've got Buller there now, but he can play. I think you could put Laurie anywhere in that back line. He's going to give 100%.
This is the trouble with the Tigers, though, isn't it? He's clearly one of their best players and struggled to crack the team this year. And when he's in there, look what he can do. He was outstanding. So
yeah,
hopefully Benji doesn't come up with stinkers like that next year because unfortunately they're going to lose him, and he should be a key member of their team.
Yeah, no, Jacko said AFB's playing at a level few props can reach, but he looks buggered. Rest him for the Dolphins game. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to rest him, but I think we'll see reduced minutes. I think Webster, we haven't chatted for a while, but I think he's going to start listening to me a bit more, and you may see reduced minutes for Tohu and Adden for these last couple of games, just to make sure they're still alive come finals time, because Fanua Blake's carrying that team on his back when it comes to the forward stuff, and yeah, the last thing they want is an injury. And yeah, Jacko said that the Tigers thought poor old Laurie was too small. Yeah, that's crazy talk in my eyes, but the Tigers may learn one day. Next game, Roosters defeating the Dolphins 30-14.
And it was 5-2 for the Roosters. Joey Manu, Billy Smith, Joseph Suali'i, and Drew Hutchison with a double. He had a really big game. 2 tries for the Dolphins, Ray Stone, Jermaine Isako.
Yeah, Roosters notched up another decent win here, keeping their slim chances of finals footy alive. Tore the Dolphins apart with some strong attacking sets and utilised some second phase football. Not convinced yet, but they keep winning, so who knows what's going to happen. What do you reckon about your Chooks?
Oh, great team, mate. Yeah, another good game from the Chooks. They'll be really disappointed they've left it this late. I think Hutchison was really good, and he added a lot of direction to their game. I almost feel like he should have been included in this role a lot sooner than he has been.
Yeah. You take on the Finns.
I thought they did a good job to withstand a lot of pressure from the Roosters in the first half and somehow managed to go into the Sheds 8-0 up. Yeah. Ultimately they ran out of steam and couldn't foot it with the Roosters like they did earlier in the year.
Yeah, they did their best, but they're just not at the same level at this time of season. As Paul's mentioned, they had 4 in the opening 6 rounds and then 4 wins in the next 18. Yeah, they started with a hiss and a roar, but as the season's gone on, their performances have dropped. It's not a secret. Bennett's talked about it a lot. But yeah, commendable. I think they just don't have the firepower, and I think it was always going to be a learning curve this year. But yeah, they're doing a lot better than a lot of people expected. So yeah, tough luck, but hopefully they're stronger next year. Your player that stood out, I think we picked the same guy again. Oh, well, Paul was going to jump in. Paul, jump back.
No, I'll leave the Q&A.
Okay.
Yeah, Drew Hutchison. I already mentioned him in my breakdown of the Roosters. He was really, really good. Gave them a bit of direction and straightened up their attack better than it has been for a lot of the year. Yeah, and a couple of tries, some try assists. He had a big one.
Yeah, I went with Drew as well. Thought he had a great game. And like you said, should have probably been involved a bit sooner this season. But yeah, congrats. First game on Sunday. Storm defeating the Raiders 48-2.
Yes, sorry, Simon. That was probably not nice viewing for you. 9 tries to 0. Christian Welch, Marion Seve, Remus Smith, Ali Katoa, Trent Liero, Harry Grant, Cam Munster, Nick Meaney, Young Tonamapea. So different try scores each time there.
Yeah. And Jamal Fogarty got the only points for the Raiders with a penalty.
Yeah.
So I know we don't normally talk about them, but since that's the only points they got, we probably should. But practice run for the Storm here. Felt like they were almost scoring on every set. And defensively, they didn't really have to work too hard at all. Bellamy knows when to get his team in the right form to hit finals, so they don't peak too early. And I think if this version of the Storm continue from here on out, they could make some waves deep into the finals. And yeah, Paul said, Raiders with a points differential of negative 120 puts them 14th in the league, but sits 6th at the table. Yeah, it's that whole when they lose badly sometimes, and when they win, they win close.
Yeah.
your take on the Storm?
Yeah, outstanding game from the Storm. Scoring tries for fun. I still feel like they've had too many off games this year to convince me that they can produce like this every game during the finals. But at the same time, it wouldn't shock me. It's the Storm after all, and Craig Bellamy at the helm. They know what to do at the end of the year.
They do have a tough game this week against the Dragons, though, so we'll see. We'll see if they're proper credentials. And yeah, Paul said Raiders' biggest win this season was by 10 points. They might have a chance to beat that this week, I think. I'm confident.
Yeah.
Jacko said underestimate Bellyache and the Storm at your peril. Yeah. I never write them off. No matter how good or bad they're going, you're silly. But your take on the Raiders, I don't know if there's really much to say.
Well, nothing really good to say. Yeah, it was a terrible match from the Green Machine, who normally go well against the Storm, to be fair. They've got a good record against
them. Especially in Melbourne.
Yeah, 5 on the trot in Melbourne leading into this game. So, yeah, that was blown out of the water well and truly. Hopefully for them, this hasn't dented their confidence too badly heading into finals. I think they'll desperately want a big confidence-boosting win against the Dog this weekend by more than 10 points if possible.
Yeah, I felt like they never got off the bus. Sticky said it best in the presser. I know he was only there for like 10 seconds, but he said they come into this match fighting for a top 4 spot, and they offered this type of performance. He was really disappointed. I was surprised with the effort as well, and I still think they're a favorite to get eliminated in the first week of finals.
Yeah.
Your player?
Again, another one of those games where most of the team went really well. I picked Harry Grant. He's a gun. What more can I say?
Yeah, I went with Nick Meaney. I think it was another strong showing from him, especially with that young, inexperienced fullback coming back in reserve grade that wants to take a spot.
Little
puppy. So, I think it was another good showing from him to show that, that spot should be his. We'll see what happens. But, thought it was a great outing from him. So, moving, another blowout. Last game of the round. Knights defeating the Bulldogs 42-6.
7 tries to 1 here for the Knights. Dane Gagai, Tyson Gamble with 2. Kurt Mann, Inari Tuala, Leo Thompson, and Jack the Ripper, Jack Hetherington. He crossed for 1. Only the 1 try for the Dogs. Reed Marnie burrowing over from dummy half.
Yeah. And Paul's mentioned here before we go into it, Bulldogs have the worst defense in the league, allowing 657 points.
Not good reading, is it?
No, but yeah, the Knights, their rich vein of form continues with another dominant display. I wrote them off, as I said earlier, a few weeks ago, and they've been on fire ever since. The spine's clicking, forwards are not taking a back step, and the back line's reaping the rewards. Could be a team that throws a spanner in the works in the finals, which I don't believe I would be saying at this point. But they deserve it. Your thoughts on the Knights?
Yeah, pretty much the same as you, Brad, just said differently. They're flying at the moment. They look every bit a top 8 team who could worry teams in the finals. Everybody seems on the same page, and they're scoring some really great tries. So, yeah, they're looking dangerous.
Yeah. Bulldogs.
Yeah, the Dogs won't look back on their 2 games against the Knights this year fondly. That's for sure. I think on aggregate it was well over 100 points to the Knights. I think well over 100 to 6. Can't remember what the total was exactly, but yeah, I think for the Dogs, the end of year can't come soon enough, and go again next year.
Yeah, they were just shocking here. Poor discipline, poor attack, poor defense, just poor. Another team counting down till the season's over, like you said. Short, sharp, and sweet. Your player that stood out. Before you say Jacko said the Johns brothers have said the Knights are like the 05 Tigers and are a big chance to win the premiership. They would say that. Yeah, they're loyal to a fault to the Knights. Yeah. People might say the same about us when we say the Warriors are going to go all the way, Yeah. But yeah, your player that stood out.
I put Tyson Gamble. I thought he's really good here. couple of tries. He's just, especially with Hastings going down injured, he really stepped up.
Yeah, I went with Dane Gagai.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Thought he was great out there, really asking a lot of questions of the dogs. But then everyone was. So yeah, massive win for the Knights. So that's the round. So we'll go to either the ladder or the tips. Paul's choice. Go on ladder. Was I top 8 last week or you?
Yeah, I think you were.
You give
I'll
us the
take
top
it.
8.
Yeah, it's very much the same. Penrith 1, Brisbane 2, Warriors 3, Melbourne 4. Top 4 remains the same, in the same order. Cronulla have moved up to 5th. Raiders have dropped to 6th. Newcastle and Souths remain 7th and 8th.
Yeah, so the only change in there was the Sharks and Raiders switching. Then the bottom 9, Cowboys have gone up to 9th. Eels have gone down to 10th. Roosters up to 11th. Manly down to 12th. And then the rest are all stayed where they were last week. So Titans 13, Dolphins 14, Bulldogs 15, Dragons 16, and then Tigers 17. So it's that fun time of the year where we can talk about it. Where are we cutting off the comp, Rich?
I think you got to say at the Roosters. Even the Roosters are at very long odds where they'll need to win all their games and have other results go their way. But it's going to get real interesting now because I know these coming weeks there's some teams fighting for that 7th, 8th spot. They're playing against each other, so things are really going to get spicy.
Yeah, I
was going to say the same.
We're playing each other this weekend. Yep.
Yeah.
Which gives you ideas. Yeah, the cutoff will be between those two next weekend, depending which team.
Yeah, it's essentially a finals game this week.
Yeah.
Winner moves on. Loser is gone. So hopefully we've got a bit more of an idea, which is good because I think this time last year, you might remember, Paul, we basically had the top 8 sewn up. I think there was really only one. It was whoever could sneak into the 8th position. 1 to 7 were already lined up like weeks before the finals even started.
I think Souths is, and maybe the Cowboys. I know Souths definitely still have a bye remaining as well, which helps them getting a free 2 points.
Yeah. And Parramatta also have that bye as well.
Parramatta might be the other one. Yeah.
So Parramatta and South's got supplies, but Parramatta have got to pay the Panthers as well.
Yeah.
So
they like beating the Panthers in regular season, those Eels. So you never know. But interesting times.
Actually, that's a question for you while we're looking at this. Does it matter if you come first or second in the table? Now, obviously, there's a minor premiership there, which is important to a degree. But as far as the finals go, because the final is at a set location, isn't it? I think. Does it matter if you finish first or second?
Other than the minor premiership, it doesn't give you any other benefit. No.
First and second get to have home games. That first round, you get to play them at your home stadium instead of getting moved to a bigger one. But if you're first or second, you get that. So, and for the Brisbane, that doesn't affect them because their stadium is the big one for their area. So, but yeah, I guess minor premiership. I don't know if you get. Do you get a
I think you get I think you get a monetary reward, don't you? And a big shield
for getting the minor premiership and the big shield.
Yeah, it just comes down to whether Panthers would rest some players 2 weeks out.
They generally do.
They have done, yeah.
They generally do this time of year,
which could open it up. Which could open it up for the for the Eels. It was basically where I was going with that.
I think Penrith and Brisbane play each other too, don't they? In the run home, so that might decide it too.
Yeah, and Simon says first and second do have a second chance. The top 4 get a second chance. So whoever loses that first, the 2 teams that lose in the first week of finals get to stay the next week
and host.
Top 4 is important.
So Panthers have got Titans, Eels, and then Cowboys, whereas Broncos have got the bye, Raiders, and Storm. So no, they don't. They
Oh,
don't meet each
they
other.
don't play each other. Oh, I'm
No,
misinformed.
it's Storm. They're playing the Storm.
Storm, yeah, that's who it is. That's who it is.
So yeah, interesting. It's a good couple of weeks leading into the finals. There's some good matchups there.
Very
you
good.
want to bring up the tipping, Paul? Oh, look at that! Look at those 2 stars, Richie. Do you like those 2 stars? I don't know if you've had a star this year. Have you yet?
Are we counting Origin? No, I picked Queensland.
No, because we all got we all got stars the first 2 weeks of Origin.
I was going to say, I'm not sure selecting one game gets
one
you a
game.
star.
Hey, I'll take any little win.
So yeah, Simon and myself both got every game correct last week, so we both get the gold star. So Simon is still leading the comp, 118 out of 180. I'm on 117 out of 180, and Richie, you only got 1 wrong.
You could have given me a little. You could have given me a little silver star. I think 7 out of 8's pretty good.
No, we're not giving you a no. So you're on 109 out of 180. So still not that far behind. A few correct calls and upsets, you might get there.
Hey, we'll see.
And before we move to questions, I'll just do a quick rundown of the round 4 results of the NRLW. So the Raiders defeated the Dragons 19-18. The Cowboys defeated the Tigers 16-12. Broncos defeated the Eels 22-12. Roosters defeated the Sharks 36-12. And then the Knights defeated the Titans 22-10. So Roosters still look like the team to beat, as we expected, with all the stars they've got. Questions. So Paul, you said you had a question you were going to ask, but were there any other questions as well?
There are no other questions from the live chat.
It's because they've all left to go watch soccer, I believe. But it's cool.
Well, there is that, yes. So my question was going to be around the Dolphins, in the fact that you mentioned there that you hope they're going to be stronger next year, but they start with hiss and a roar, 4 wins in the first 6 games, and let's say they've won 6 games since then in the next 18 rounds. Which is the real Dolphins? Are they that Dolphins we saw in that first opening 6 rounds, or are the Dolphins the team that we've seen since then? And are they going to be sort of bottom 2, bottom 3 fodder next year?
I think they're closer to the team we've seen recently than they are to the team that started. I think no one really knew what to expect, so it was a bit harder to, prepare for them at the start. I think I still don't see them making finals next year, but I don't think they're going to be bottom 2. They've got some good players coming in, so I think that will help them out. But the young guys that they brought in this year have had a season of experience, so I think there will be improvement. But you just never know in this comp. Like the Warriors are top 4 right now. They were second to last, almost getting the spoon last year. The Eels made the grand final, and now they look like they won't make the finals at all. A year can change, good or bad. But that's my Richie answer, sitting on the fence.
No, well, you're okay. So your answer was you were expecting them to be lower mid-table.
Lower mid-table, yeah.
Richie, are you lower mid? Where do you see them? Lower mid-table or bottom tier, where the Bulldogs, Dragons, and Tigers are this year?
Well, one thing I know for sure, they've got a really good coach. They've got a squad full of battlers that were going good until their depth was getting tested a bit too much. But I think they've got some really good guys coming in for next year, so that would help in that department. It's all going to depend on how durable they are next year with their squad health. But if they have a good run with injuries, I wouldn't be surprised if they're fighting for the 8 or on the cusp. Anywhere from that sort of 7 through to 10. 7 through 10, 11, 12, that sort of area, I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, so you're saying they no throwing wooden spoons into the training pitch for the Dolphins this year.
Dragons are getting that next year.
If it's not, if they're not getting a spoon this year, I think they're only going to get better next year.
Cool. That was my question to you guys.
Cool. We'll go with your question first.
Okay, yeah. So word is Te Maire Martin is nearly good to go. Do you see him as part of our lineup, given his lack of game time recently, and our established combinations already? And if you do see him as part of the lineup, how would you go about bringing him back in?
Starting at 6 next week.
Really, you're really off Metcalf?
I'm not off him. I'm thinking about winning a grand final here, and I don't see us winning a grand final with Luke Metcalf. I see us winning one with Te Maire Martin. Luke's great at the running, but controlling that left edge. I think we go into a grand final against Penrith. Penrith know they've got to make sure Dallin doesn't get the ball. And they go, we don't even have to worry about the left edge because the ball doesn't go that way. And when it does, it's because Sean's run around and taken over on that side. So we can basically ignore that side. You have Te Maire Martin there, you've got two halves that can, set their second row as their centres and their wingers up. So I think that way, and he hasn't had that game time, but, it's a game against the Dragons at home next week. And then the Dolphins. It's the best time to get him some game out, some game time, and get some match fitness into him. I'm just thinking long term. It's not like Metcalf's out in the dumpster and never playing again, right? He wasn't really expected to be playing as much as he has this year. If there's a way to keep him involved, I put him on the bench, I wouldn't mind, but that's a pretty small bench already. And it's not like he's known to play dummy half, so you couldn't even get rid of Sirenin and bring him in where he could fill in at hooker if need be. He's an out-and-out back. So, it's tough, but I want to go with experience. Te Maire Martin's been there, done that on the big stage. And we don't have a lot of players in that team right now that have that type of experience. So I think that experience is more valuable than the flair that we get and the pace that we get from Metcalf. And what about you?
I mean, they're just very different, aren't they? Metcalf, where he shines, is his support play. If someone makes breaks through the line, like we saw on the weekend, Mitch Barnett making a line break and who's right there on his shoulder. We've seen that from Luke Metcalf a number of times this year, and he's pretty good at picking up tries in that fashion. But I think you bring up a very good point about the number of weapons in our team that would open up if Te Maire Martin's back in the saddle on the other side of the field. It certainly gives the other team a lot more to be worried about rather than focusing on stopping our right-hand sweep towards Dallin, like you say. So I think you make a really good point there.
If we don't see Te Maire at all for the rest of the year and it's Luke, I'm not sitting here throwing my toys going, this is rubbish. I'm sure Metcalf's going to do what he does. But I'm looking at it defending-wise. We've got to watch out for Egan in the middle. Got to watch for Sean on that side, Te Maire on that side, and Chance swinging around wherever he feels like going. That seems more dangerous than worrying about a forward doing an offload from a break to Metcalf. But I'm sure he'll kill it if he's still there, so it's fine. My question for you, it may get answered because of the team selections, but Bunty Afoa has not played the last two matches for the Warriors, and they're not performed at the level we expect. Do you think they're missing him, and would you bring him back in? Spoilers, he's back this week, but
he is back this week.
This question was made before the team was announced.
Obviously, Mitch Barnett's out with his leg cut. Had Mitch Barnett been available for selection, I'd be fine with Bunty Afoa missing out again. I love Bunty. Nothing personal against him. I do love what Jazz brings off the bench. I think he'll get better with the more match fitness he gets. Obviously, he's just coming back from injury layoff. I feel like the past couple games what we've really missed is Chance when he was off, and the week just gone also losing Egan early in the match. I think that's where we've been really disjointed. A couple of spine members not being there, and not so much Bunty. I think with Bunty not being there, we can replace him. I know he's probably a little bit bigger bodied than Jazz, but I feel like he's a little bit more replaceable. And where we've really been lacking is Chance not being there, and then Egan in the last game. So if he's there, that's good. If not, I'm more than happy having Jazz there because he just brings us probably a little bit more energy, a little less size, but a little bit more energy, and I think he would almost impact the game a little bit more, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I think they've been missing him. I think they've been missing his defense because you saw, especially in that Tigers game, their little men were carving up in the middle, and Bunty, when he's there in the middle, he shuts that down. So I think they've missed that. Again, it's like the Metcalf situation. If he's not named, it's not the end of the world. I know Jazz is a great player. I personally, if he was there, I would have him starting like he is this week, and I'd be keeping Jazz, Dylan, Sirinen, and Barnett, and I'd be dropping Curran if it was me.
Oh, that's a big call.
I love Curran, but I don't see the reason to need Curran and Jazz and Walker on the bench because Curran's just an out-and-out second rower, and they've got 2 second rowers that play 80 minutes. So you're effectively bringing him on just to do 20 minutes, where I think you could use that 20 minutes elsewhere, especially to try to keep guys like Adam fresh.
It's a great debate, isn't it? Because I don't see Curran as an out-and-out edge forward. I know we've seen him at 13 before as well last year, and he do a really good job there. But, yeah, that's a tough call. I'm glad Webster has to make it, not me.
It's a great problem to have, having as opposed to last year where you were just kind of throwing anyone in because that was all they had. So,
yeah,
I love Curran, though. Don't get me wrong. But, I'm just trying to think of the best way to utilize the middle more because you can't have Adam playing 70 minutes every week. And he's playing more minutes because they don't have a guy like Bunty in there that can absorb that damage for as long. Jazz will get there. He's only 2 weeks back from a massive injury. So, but yeah. So that was it. Great questions. So we'll move on. Wait, we got Paul first.
No, I'm going to throw another question at you guys. Looking at
Honestly,
the table.
We're going long here, you know.
I know we are. We're going to go very long. Looking at the table then. The Warriors are 2 games clear now of 5th place. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter when it comes to finals time, really, if you finish 3rd or 4th. So how do you approach these next 3 games, knowing that you've basically got a top 4 tied up? Are you looking at resting players, rotating, or are you looking at trying to go in with your main team so the continuity is there and you've got the form going in, you've got the kind of the positivity of all the wins and good results going into the finals? I've started Richie this time. Richie, how do you do it? Are you going to rotate your player, or are you going to go full ball?
That's a good question, and I think I wouldn't be against resting people had our form been a little bit better. I feel like we've been a little scratchy the past, say, 3 games. I wouldn't mind seeing us march our top side out there and get a couple of really good wins for our confidence. But at the same time, you are right. There's no real difference between finishing 3rd or 4th. If there were a case of somebody hobbling in a game, I wouldn't be against whipping them off as quickly as possible to keep them fresh, especially if it's somebody important, and maybe resting them for one of the last games if need be. But I think for momentum, I wouldn't mind. I'd be marching the top side out there, trying to get a couple of really nice wins.
Yeah, you guys are crazy. There's still a chance they could fall out of the top 4. They're 4 points ahead of the Sharks. If they lose the rest of their games and the Sharks win the rest of their games, the Sharks get ahead of them. Even if they end up on the same amount of points, there's a massive chance the Sharks' points differential could be better.
Yeah, but say there's a scenario where the last game, for instance, where we've got it sewn up.
If we've got it sewn up and we're playing the Dolphins over there, the Warriors seem to take a back step when they have a week off. So I would still be playing them, but maybe reducing minutes. So, if the game's we've seen it a few times this year when the game looks a bit more comfortable, Tohu and Adam come off and they have a rest.
Yeah.
That type of thing. But I want them to be confident in hitting some form. Probably a completely different opinion if they were putting 30, 40 points on teams the last 2 weeks. But
so just to sell people's nerves, the Sharks haven't. We've always said the Sharks don't beat top 8 teams. They've got basically 3 top 8 teams. Well, okay, the Cowboys are in 9th at the moment, but 3 top 8 teams in the last 3 games. So look,
they could always do it. We never know. Then we're predicted premiers for a reason. They're dangerous.
So both the boys are saying go full bore, but Richie's saying, look, if someone's got a niggly injury, perhaps don't risk the injury, but otherwise go full bore till the till the end.
Well, like last week we saw Adam go off with a bit of a limp. I may have given him a week off this week, maybe, to make sure that was fit. So stuff like that. If there's something where you push them for one more play and they might not play again this year, you don't do that. So but in Webster we trust. He knows what he's doing.
He does.
So we'll move on. So we'll move on. We've got the we'll go through the Warriors Seagulls game first at Daniel Anderson Stadium, Richie.
Yeah, Daniel Anderson Stadium.
I'll let you go through the Warriors team.
Yep, I'll go through the Warriors lineup. There's really only one injury force change. So the team is Chans at fullback, Dallin and Marcelo Montoya on the wings, Rocco Berry, Adam Pompey centers, Luke Metcalf, Sean Johnson in the halves, unchanged backline for a number of weeks now. Forward pack, Infinor Blake, Wade Egan, and Bunty R4 comes in for Mitch Barnett. That's your front row. Edge forwards, Jackson Ford, Marata Niokore, and Tohu Harris, lock and captain. Interchange bench, Dylan Walker, Jazz Tavanga, Bailey Sirinen, Josh Curran.
And then for Manly, they messed up. There's some long names there, so I had to fit things around so the names would be on there. But we got Ruben Garrick at fullback, Jason Saab and Raymond Tumalalo Fainga on the wings, Tolotai Kola and Morgan Harper in the centres, Schuster and DCE, Dale Cherry Evans in the halves. Front row, we got Toff Sipley, Lachlan Croker and Sean Kepi. Second row, we got Hamoli Olokuatu and Kalma Tuolangi. And then we've got Jake Travojevic at lock. And then interchange, we've got Jake Arthur, Dean Madison, Aaron Woods, and Ethan Bullimore. So a lot of rumours, Richie, before we pick, a lot of rumours that Schuster's going to get dropped from 6 and Jake Arthur's going to move in because, Schuster looks more like a front rower than a half. Especially with some of his kicking options in the weekend. But this was the game with 5 rounds to go. This was the game I circled for the Warriors that I was actually worried about because Manly, you never know what you're going to get, and Manly love breaking Warriors fans' hearts.
They do.
So with all of that and those nerves, I've gone with the Warriors. I think they're going to do it. There's 2 games left. They've got a lot to prove, not only to themselves, but to the fans after those last 2 weeks. So I think they want to make a statement here. So I'm hoping for the best. I'm going Warriors.
I'm going Warriors. My biggest concerns are if Daly Cherry Evans were to rock up and have one of his better games. Olukuatu's damaging on the edge there. And they've got speed out wide. Saab, Kohler. But I feel like man for man, if you're matching up, we match up pretty well. And particularly at home, I feel like we'll be up for this one. So I'm gonna tip us. I'll even take us. I'll go 13 plus. There you go.
Oh,
wow!
Okay. And
go bold.
Simon, what did you pick, Simon?
So Simon says that the Warriors are going to win. But Paul says, looking at sort of the stats, I wouldn't expect it to be a blowout, folks. The Eagles are actually on some pretty decent form, winning 3 out of their last 6 games, and even their losses have been by sort of 11 points, 10 points, and then obviously Penrith at the weekend, which is a bit bigger. But still, the Penrith one was only 12 points. So, yeah, I'm not expecting a big blowout of this one. I think the Eagles here are a decent team. So I would go, a close Warriors win is my.
We're going to do them.
I hope so.
If we lose, you can all blame me.
Yeah. All right. So we'll go into the rest of the round, round 25. We've got the fixtures there. So Thursday night, we've got Cowboys Sharks. I've actually gone with Cowboys. I think Cowboys want to get into that 8 again, so I'm picking them, especially at home.
Damn you. I went Cowboys as well. I was hoping you'd go the other way. Yeah.
Cowboys favourites with the TAB at 158 to 235 by the Sharks. Yeah, look, Sharks don't beat top teams. So, yeah, Cowboys it is.
Yep. Next game was Warriors Seagulls, which I've already picked. All of us hitting Warriors across the board. Next game is Eels Roosters. I've gone with Roosters. I just don't see the Eels doing it without Mitch Moses. Me
too. Same reason.
And the TAB agrees with you as well, 162, and so does Simon. We're going with the Roosters for the away win. Even though the Roosters have only got 3 away wins and 7 losses away from home, so the Roosters don't like travelling. So there you go.
Yeah. First game on Saturday, West Tigers versus the Dolphins. I'm going with the Tigers.
Oh no, you're not.
Going with the Tigers. They've come close a few weeks. They're at home. They're buoyed with confidence. They've got a Dolphins team which is struggling with depth. Easy win. They're going to do it. I'm confident.
Yeah, I thought I'd be the only one here. Yeah, I went Tigers as well.
Dear me, in Dolphins we trust. Well, yes, we've been saying that after the first 6 rounds, and then it's a bit silly, but there we go. Yep, Simon's going with the Dolphins for this one, guys. Outsiders at $3.15. So yeah,
Simon's giving me a chance to catch up.
It's not often the Tigers are favourites, eh? Not often the Tigers are favourites.
They're more favourites than the Cowboys or the Roosters.
That's crazy business.
Get on the Tigers bandwagon. Here we go. We're riding all the way to the wooden spoon. We love it. Next game, I think, will be pretty easy to predict. Titans, Panthers. Going with Panthers.
Yep, definitely.
Look, yeah, Panthers. It's only $1.07. They're massive favourites.
Next game,
as are the Storm with the next one. So yeah.
Next game's just as easy. I think. Are we all picking Storm to beat the Dragons?
Yeah, definitely. This next game's going to be the big one.
Yeah. So first game on Sunday, the Informed Knights against the Scratchy Rabbits. I'll go on with Rabbits. It feels like a very Rabbitohs thing to play the game of their life and break someone's momentum. So
you're right.
I'm picking the Rabbits to score. I'm going to call it an upset right now in Newcastle.
Yeah.
Hang on. Before you, how can you call it an upset? The Rabbits are favourites for the TAB.
I know they're favourites, but the Knights are on a massive winning streak and they're playing at home.
It doesn't matter. It's not an upset. The odds say the Rabbits are favourites here. You've gone with the favourite.
Yeah, it's Australia. Is it New Zealand favourites or Australian favourites that you're looking at?
I look at the TAB, New Zealand.
Okay. Yeah, well, we're not the brightest either, so who knows?
They're good at home too, the Knights.
They are good at home, yeah.
I'm going Knights. This is a must-watch. This got big ramifications, this game too. So
yeah,
I'm going Knights actually to keep their patch of form going.
Knights are good at home, as Richie said, 7 wins from 3 losses. However, the Rabbits are possibly one of the best travelling teams around. 8 wins, 3 losses on the road. So the Rabbits really do travel well. We're going Rabbits. Rabbits.
All right, and then the final game, Raiders Bulldogs. God, this could be a real bludger or a real highlight reel, depending on which Raiders show up. But I am backing the Raiders. I think the Bulldogs, as you said already, Paul, they've been shocking this year with their stats. I think you said they had the worst defense.
Yeah, worst defense, 657 points.
Yeah. So I think this is the time we're going to see the Raiders finally get a win by more than 10 this year. So I'm going Raiders.
Me too. I agree. They're going to be desperate to keep their season going in at home against one of the bottom teams. Raiders.
Yeah, and the I've not signed in. Jeez, to place my bet. Yeah, you've got to go Raiders with this one. I think this then cements the Raiders finals position. I think with this win, and then you're kind of looking at with that Sharks loss that I think we've all predicted, this would lift Raiders up into that fifth place and would say I think secure them their finals footy.
All right, so I think that's 6 games we've got in common.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've just put in my 8-game multi for myself, which is hopefully going to work.
So a 6 game multi, $2 on. We win $10.64.
Oh,
Wow.
See,
Did you put your 8-game multi down the weekend just gone, Brad, seeing as though you had a 8 from 8?
I did, yes.
Very good.
Almost got enough to retire now in my TAB account. Either that or fill my car up with half a tank of gas.
Yeah.
So we see
what the hell's going on there? Jesus. bloody corporate profiteers.
It's a different podcast, Paul. We'll add that to the list. Politics. So before we move into Super League, I'll do a quick rundown of the NRLW round 5. So we got the 7th place Cowboys playing the 9th place Sharks, the 5th place Tigers playing the 8th place Dragons, the 4th place Titans playing the 1st place Roosters, 2nd place Knights versus 6th place Broncos, and then 3rd place Raiders versus the 10th place Eels. So some good games there.
Yep.
I always watch Millie, so I'll be watching the Roosters Titans game live. But we'll move into Super League. So goodbye, Jacko, if you're still here. So we had the Challenge Cup, Richie.
Yeah.
And Lee defied all the odds, and they won it. Lachlan Lamb scored a try and kicked the match-winning field goal in Golden Point. 21 years ago, his dad also scored a try and kicked a field goal in Wiggins Challenge Cup final win.
It's crazy, right?
So crazy stat that I thought I'd have to bring in. That was when they defeated Bradford all those years ago. Just a hell of a story for Lee, who they were promoted to Super League this year and were expected to be battling for relegation. We made fun of their strip
uniform,
and all that, but they've just been doing well. Still in contention to go deep in finals for Super League as well.
They were good in this game too. I watched it. They nearly choked it. They conceded a try right on the buzzer to go Golden Point. It looked like they had it in the bag before that, but like you say, great story. It opened up a great story for Lachlan Lamb to be able to kick a field goal in Golden Point.
Lachlan Lamb may have been the half that the Roosters should have kept hold of.
Maybe.
Who knows? The lead defeated Hull KR 17-16. We also had the round 1 match that was missed due to the World Club Challenge, and St. Helens defeated Uddersfield 32-18. So they were the only 2 games. So we got round 22 in the Super League coming up this week. We've got Uddersfield versus Salford, Wigan versus Hull FC, Wakefield versus Castleford, St. Helens versus Hull KR, Lee versus Catalans, which should be a great match there, and Leeds versus Warrington. Few good. I think the Wakefield Castleford could be an interesting one too.
Yeah.
Could have. I think they're still tussling for the bottom of the ladder. So I think the winner of this. I'm just going to quickly look at the ladder. Enjoyable content, guys. Yeah, so they are both on 8 points. So whoever wins the match this week will effectively get ahead of the other one and avoid relegation potentially. That's probably another must-win game, which you wouldn't expect from two teams at the bottom of the ladder. Anything else you want to add, Richie?
Go the Warriors.
Go the Warriors.
Yeah, it's been another fun night of chatting, and hopefully come Friday night we're not as agitated as we were on Saturday night, Brad. Hopefully it's a little bit more comfortable this week.
Yeah, only 2 more regular season home games for me to go to. Gonna miss it soon, but got the chance of having a home final at some point though, so that'll be fun. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in and joining us tonight on the Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. For your weekly update on rugby league, remember to tune into our show 8 p.m. next week, or at your convenience at a later date on iHeartRadio or Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Cheers for joining me again, Richie, and thank you, Paul, for all your help in the background. And good night, everyone.